And hello, everybody. Welcome to Friday night's after show. It's good to be with you tonight on Narrative. And here's Greg Olear and LB. Nice to see you guys. Welcome to the show. I can't hear you.
Good to be here.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
That's because we're not talking yet.
Yeah. You were meant to wear a hat. And I went and got a cap and you're not wearing your hat now, Greg. What's going on?
I can't wear the hat and the headphones. So hold on.
Okay. So let me get my headphones working. All right. Here I am. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. I can hear you.
Yes.
I gather we're not on YouTube as well. So
the headphones on. Now I can hear you.
It's been one hell of a week. I feel like I've been on the air every night this week because we've done.
I think you have.
We had an extra show last night, so I feel like I'm endlessly on Narrative, which is fine. It's lovely to be with everybody, but boy, it's a lot of airtime to fill. Tonight's going to be really interesting because we've got a full week in review as per usual, and we've got a hats. Hats are a signal for what? LB, why are we wearing hats?
Well, we're gonna, you either flip or you plead the fifth.
Oh, okay.
So they're gonna flip, or they're gonna plead the fifth.
All right, that's the game you've created.
It's a game. I just created it right now.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone is, talking so much about, the subpoenas and these fucketeers. Are they going to show up and blah blah blah? And I'm obsessed with it as well. But when they show up, I think everyone feels okay. They're probably going to plead the fifth.
Right.
And what does that mean? And what we want to do is I'll take you guys through a little tour through some recent history and some ancient history, and you'll get to see some gangsters and just general horrible criminal human beings, all of whom are somehow connected to the former guy, but maybe the Justice Department even. And we'll sort of take a little tour and kind of make a guess, right? Are they going to flip? Are they going to plead the fifth? Everyone's going to plead the fifth, by the way. But I'm spoiling it a little bit. Yeah. I think it'll help people to know. Okay, here is actually something that happened before, and here's the sort of the person that's now
filling that role.
We're familiar with, filling that role. Thank you.
Right, that'll be really interesting. I noticed you had a great show today, Greg Olear, with Craig Unger, and I want to talk about that. But I first want to talk about your thoughts about James Bond, because I know you went to see that.
Ooh. Yeah,
and I did, and I want to hear that because I haven't seen it yet, and I hear it's really good.
I haven't either.
I'm not. Look, there's a couple of caveats here. First of all, I think that all James Bond movies should be permanently set in 1963. I do not like James Bond as a 21st century character. He is not. He's a character from the Cold War, like right after the war, a decade and a half after. M is very much a Cold War, World War II vet guy, whatever. So. I like Connery. I like that shtick. I like the camp. I like those movies a lot. I love those movies.
Yeah, they're great movies.
These new movies, I feel like, I can't, I love Daniel Craig as an actor. He's not James Bond. He's just not.
Stop it.
He's the guy. No. He's the guy that stands next to James Bond and puts on his coat or lights a cigarette or something. That's just not.
No.
But
really
having said that,
yes.
And I like Daniel Craig as an actor. I think he's a wonderful actor, and I like him in everything else he does. But I just don't buy it. However, as a piece of entertainment, it was very, very good.
Straight.
I thought
it's your problem.
It was, they try to get too dark with this stuff. I don't want James Bond to be dark. I don't need that from my James Bond. I don't need spy. I don't need it to be realistic. I don't want it to be. I just want to go there and have fun for 2 fucking hours. Is that too much to ask? I don't want tears and longing and bad feels.
Because he's a brooding character, right?
This kick ass a little bit, right? Exactly. It's a movie character that isn't even faithfully based on the character from the book at all.
But that's okay, right? Isn't it okay that James Bond evolves? I feel like it's okay. I feel like he couldn't be the same person all the time.
He's a dinosaur and he's supposed to stay a dinosaur.
Oh, okay.
And that's how it's
no.
But having said that, I really enjoyed the movie a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought Craig was really good. They incorporate stuff really well. It's beautiful. They go to these crazy places and there's great. I'm not a big action movie guy. I usually get bored during the action movies. Those sequences bore the hell out of me. I'm just like, oh, all right, get to the part already.
Like you're stabbing me in the heart.
There's
a
scene in this movie.
It's like my living.
There's a scene in the movie at the end where he's trying to get to the place where he's got to go. And I think they don't cut. I think it's a whole thing where he's shooting at these guys. It's really cool. It's really cool. I was like, oh yeah, that's a really good scene there. Whatever. I'm spoiling it. There's an action sequence in the James Bond movie at the end.
Shocking.
I'm sorry to spoil.
Breaking news.
And there's also the best part is there was a couple of little hat tips, little things for the faithful fans like me who have watched the movies for years and years. And I really enjoy those. I chuckled No one else in the theater got any of the jokes at all. Even the many old people that were there, just right over their heads, like Bond's hat flying through Miss Moneypenny's office to land on the hook.
Oh, that's such a good move. I love that move.
How are you going to recreate that?
I don't want this. Is bad.
This is bad. It is great that there's movies we can go see in the movie theaters again, because those are movies you have to see on a big screen. They don't look. They're not as good on the small screen. And yet the film sector, or the IATSE, is that how you say it, is going on strike next week. Is that right?
Ooh, yeah, it's a big one. We actually have a lot of labor strikes happening. Somebody did a thread. I don't know who. I can't remember. Guys, I'm sorry. Sort of summarizing it, but there are a lot of labor strikes coming. This is a big one in the entertainment industry, in the film and television industry. So it's IATSE, and it's that's the everyone that works. Once there's the hellish process of actually acquiring rights to a movie or writing from a blank page, having a script, getting right. So you get all of that going. That's sort of called development, right? Mm-hmm. And then everyone agrees to make the movie. The money goes into place. Everyone's hired, and the lights go on, right? Mm-hmm. And you're filming. You're in pre-production and production, and everyone involved in that process, aside from what are called the sort of above-the-line players. This is all inside industry language. I'm sorry, everybody.
It's interesting,
boring, but they're so crews, hair and makeup, wardrobe. Everybody.
The people are actually making the film,
like actually making it. Physically make the movie, right? Physically, they're doing it. The crafts people. You have to be careful with craft when you say
it's more than that.
Everyone thinks you're talking craft services, but the folks that the grips, the sound, the camera, everything.
The people who always yell at me when I try to touch a cable on set. Those people.
Oh yes,
they don't let you do anything on set. Yes,
you're supposed to sit in a corner with.
And I'm not allowed to do anything. I can't move. I can't plug in anything. I can't do anything. Those are those.
Don't
people.
do that.
They're going on strike.
Because it's yes.
No, I agree with them. I shouldn't be doing it.
They're going on strike, and it's primarily against the streamers. So it's the Netflix, Amazons, Hulus of the world that are not. And they haven't struck, I think, since the 80s or the set. Like, this is a huge union. It's a very powerful union. This is the workmanship of the whole thing, of why you have anything that you can go to any movie theater or any turn on your television and anything comes on whatsoever. These are the folks that really make it happen. And so their union is striking because of pension and payments into it. And Ted Sarandos is sort of like the big villain in this. He's really being nasty. But I think everyone else is gonna. So the strike was specifically against the streamers, but I think everyone else is striking in solidarity. So
everyone is not going to be making movies just when they could be making movies.
Down. It is shutting. I think it is. I think it's going to shut down. And I'm telling you, the amount of money being lost. Like, it's one thing when us writers, when we went on strike, no one gave a fuck. They're like, fine, we'll pull out all these old scripts, right? And we'll make reality TV. Fuck you, writers.
Remakes.
We're always treated so terribly, right?
Yeah.
And the actors going on strike, they find ways around all that. The crew?
Yeah.
Oh, good luck.
Nothing happens without the crew.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's just, and we should all support them. It really is egregious. And they gave the streamers all this time. They kept coming back to the table. It was really the worst bad faith. Ugh. So on the other side. So, yep. It's going to be a big strike.
And it's an important strike, and there's lots of strikes, as you point out.
I think it'll
American
last
labor
2 days,
force is rising up. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
I think let's not be biased here. How is Jeff Bezos going to pay to send 90-year-old actors into space if he's got to pay these workers on movies?
Right.
I mean, answer me that.
Why should they get pension and health?
Yeah. We need to send William Shatner to space. Damn it.
We do. And I'm so glad he went up there. He was bawling when he came down. Did you see his reaction? He was like really emotional talking to Bezos, like in tears.
Not, because I do not care.
And I was like, is that because he hasn't been drinking for 24 hours, or is that because he's been out of space for 24 hours? I couldn't tell the difference, but it looked similar.
I noticed Bezos also just was more interested in the champagne. So something's wrong with him.
Bezos?
Sorry.
What do you think's wrong with him?
I don't know. He's not normal.
Well,
something's a little off with that guy.
he's a little bit off. He seems very, very testosterone driven, but there's probably more. There's probably more than you realize. So what should we do? Let's get into the news. So just before we got on the air, there was some breaking news out of Texas, because Texas is now the pariah state of the universe. In that now they've decided to redistrict some of the voting districts in Texas, and it will affect Sheila Jackson Lee, one of the most popular Democratic representatives out of Texas. It looks like she won't be able to even run in her own district. She'll be competing against the other African American district representative, because what they're doing with the districts is quite remarkable. I'll show you an example of what's happening there, and you'll see at the top. You couldn't hear me. I know you couldn't hear me. Now you can hear me. So at the top of the slide, you'll see the district as it was, and these darker green areas represent all these Hispanic communities. And this is why they were able to elect a minority representative from this district. Now, what they've done below is they've incorporated some of the Hispanic areas into these larger white communities, meaning that the Hispanic communities will be basically minorities within these big white districts. Meaning, if you're Black or Asian or Hispanic in Texas, your vote is just not going to count if you're voting, where you traditionally vote, which is disputable. And some days you think that especially Latinos might be more predisposed to being Republicans these days, but still, it really is the most blatant racist apartheid thing I've seen happen in America in a long time. It really is unbelievable. Yeah. We're heading into a place where America is going to be viewed around the world as a pariah state, a state that is purely based on race. I mean, I don't think people understand the perception of America that's happening around the world, that it's really changing how the world is viewing America as it used to be a bastion of freedom and a bastion of liberalism. And now it looks like it's becoming a racist state.
Yeah. It's awful. It's very disturbing. I'm going to tip my hat right now to Rosanna Arquette.
Yes.
Who gave a speech at the Women's March. And she did, consult with several people. And I know this particular line, she consulted with Ruth Ben-Ghiat, who's been on our show, is a dear friend of all of ours, and with Greg Olear as well. And, but it was Rosanna really crafted a lot of it. She was trying to articulate what's going on with Texas. What is the bigger thing happening? Because, of course, the Women's March that was recently was a reaction to the bounty and the abortion stuff.
Right.
And it came up with this line of Texas is a laboratory of American authoritarianism. So with Ruth, and it's true. It's very, every word in that is such an important word, right? That it's a laboratory. They're really experimenting there. It's on the front lines of how can we cook up? How can we use state legislature? How can we use the powers within a state? How can we use things like redistricting? And she did tie it into the voter suppression that was going on. And here we see it happening. She was right. She was right. And so it's that, and then American authoritarianism is a very specific thing. It really is coming out of our own DNA, out of all our history with slavery, our history with racial oppression, our current moment that we're living through with all of this regurgitation of all this stuff and the twisting of it. And then we have this sort of what's happening in the education and with the boards of education, and now a real push towards actually having a different point of view over the Holocaust now.
Yeah,
like
unbelievable.
This stuff coming out from these states, right? It's all from the state level, this bubbling up of authoritarian rule, right? And what needs to, how can they disintegrate our democracy to such a degree in order for that to sort of take hold and really have a stronghold. And Texas it's the laboratory for it. But
it's authoritarianism.
Everything's being cooked up there.
And it's racism. I mean, it's a racist Christian state. It's not just an authoritarian state. It's got these extra features.
That's key to authoritarian states. They always start with the otherizing. They start with with the subjugation of women and the stripping women of any and all rights, creating women as property. And then they come after LGBTQ, is right in there with women. But then it always takes that turn on some type of racism or anti-Semitism, that this sort of othering of, separating neighbors from one another based on their genetics. It always.
This came up in last night's show when we were speaking to Sean Prophet, who's the son of Elizabeth Clare Prophet from the 90s. Do you remember her? She was a well-known cult leader. He was part of the cult, and he was on with Jim Stewartson. And Jim was talking about all the similarities that Flynn is currently exhibiting in his nationwide tour of America, where he's using the very same prayers that Elizabeth Marie Clare was using in the 1990s. Her very own cult prayers Flynn is using today as he's going around the country, basically brainwashing Americans into joining his movement or whatever it is he's trying to build. It's terrifying stuff when you really come down to it.
It is. Zev, did you guys get into where she got her prayers, which sounds like cooked up propaganda and semantics? It sounds like it's came out of somewhere other than her prayer book.
Apparently it came from, up above from the masters. That's what she claimed. It seems to me that there is another history to the cult, and we didn't really get into it last night, but I know that there is a history related to some, wouldn't surprise anybody here, foreign intelligence, or at least local or domestic intelligence.
Like it to me.
It certainly does. I mean, she interestingly worked for a UN photographer named Leo Rosenthal in the UN in the 1940s, and he may have been a spy. And so maybe when she was his assistant, maybe she
got her some really well-crafted semantics.
And her father was also a spy for the Germans. So he's got a little spy history in the family. It doesn't mean anything, but sometimes it does. But Sean is really was unaware of it. Her son was unaware of it, or at least claimed to be unaware of it.
Yeah.
But these guys were like real, doomsday cult, building bomb shelters, to escape the nuclear fallout that they thought was coming in Montana. It was really a different time, but the same kind of thing. This perpetual fear, this perpetual ratcheting up of fear and almost capturing of fear. It feels like that there's a double motive going on here. That let's grab the fearful people and direct them into a different direction, and then let's also ratchet up the fear, so you get more. That's really where we're at right now, I think, in America.
Yeah.
Getting back to Texas for a second, Zev.
Yeah, is there sports that
in
Texas?
Not yet. The Lone Star State is now the Lone Tsar State, because that's what they want to be. They want to be authoritarian Russia.
Yeah.
So just flip that S and T around, because that's what you've got there.
Oh,
now,
nice. Well done.
There's your title for the episode.
Yeah, I think I needed it.
What Texas has done for generations now is suppressed, especially the black vote in that state.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you look at the demographics of Texas and the percentage of registered voters in the state of Texas who voted in 2016 and who voted in 2020, if you just go back and look at those numbers relative to other states, it's significantly less. Whatever they're doing, whatever the suppression tactics are there, maybe it's, hey, you have to drive to this one mailbox, and that's the only place you can vote in this county that's as big as Rhode Island or whatever, and you don't have a car. Whatever they're doing has been working really, really effectively for a long time. But the good news is, in Texas, there are more people in Texas that are Democrats and on our side than are on the side of Greg Abbott and the authoritarian jerks. There are
being redistricted out of their districts.
That's why they are so desperate to do this shit. Okay, Texas is a cool place. There's lots of cool people there, and it is a minority of neo-fascist assholes who are seeking to do this, led by Abbott and Dan Patrick, the assistant, whatever his name is, the deputy governor. What's the second man? Lieutenant governor, and the attorney general, who's under indictment for fraud.
He's under indictment.
Who's been under indictment for 5 fucking years. Okay,
that's very authoritarian of him. They always are mobsters. They're always gangsters.
They just ignore it.
And in Texas, just so you know that. Well, I just want to say about the lieutenant governor, and then I want to hear, just so people know, the lieutenant governor in Texas actually has quite a lot of power. It's the governor is almost just a sort of figurehead. And it's the lieutenant governor that's in there doing a lot of shit with the legislature. But
you know what you're saying is a minority white rule over everybody else. It does sound a lot like apartheid South Africa to me. I mean, it just basically is apartheid South Africa.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to get, and the problem with apartheid South Africa is you get down the slippery slope of, okay, once you start doing this, you got to find other ways of maintaining this racist rule, and you've got to start identifying who's of which race and starting to provide different services. It becomes a really challenging thing once you set down this road. So even though in South Africa, maybe their initial intentions were noble, I doubt it, but maybe they were noble, but it soon got into a very messy situation where they had to start controlling people based on race.
Greg Abbott's intentions are not noble.
I don't think his intentions
right here.
Spoiler alert. His intentions are not
nothing
noble. No.
Was Texas the place where they demanded that they have to teach an alternative view of the Holocaust? Was that in Texas also?
I believe that was in Texas. There was a Texas school board.
Was it Texas or
I think so, yeah.
Was it Texas?
Yeah.
Okay, ask the audience because
ask the audience.
Ask the audience, guys. Was
Lifeline.
It Texas? I'm looking. Well, they'll answer for us. They're on a little bit.
I think it was in Texas. So that was that story.
They're saying yes, Texas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is the Holocaust denial story. Do we want to talk about that? Are you guys up on that?
Oh, it's so depressing. I mean, I think it's just yet another thing, you know, another notch on the fascisties. We're trying to do a little fashion because we did sports, but fascista, really right? Yeah, not fashion, but fascist out there, right? In Texas.
Yeah.
That great big old stupid ass belt buckle that they all have to wear.
Whatever happened to the small government Republicans who weren't going to interfere in business and weren't going to interfere in education and all this other stuff? I mean, they just have become, you know, just an abomination.
I actually think it does us a disservice anymore to point out the hypocrisy. People get really stuck in hypocrisy and the other side that they know that they're hypocrites. They know that this is a reversal. When we all get all upset about it and, oh, you're such a hypocrite, then they just laugh because it's a troll, right? Because it's like, yeah, we don't care. We'll throw anything at you to distract you, to get you all up in your uppityness, right? That's how they think of this new domestic terror party this old Republican party that's evolved into this domestic terror party. They love it when people are upset, especially upset around their hypocrisy. I don't think I wish everyone would just stop that. Stop pointing out, right? We spent 4 years with Donald, with everyone saying, if Obama had done this, right? And even I did that a couple of times, and it goes nowhere. Instead, it's just like,
but we should be presenting an alternative. I mean, it feels to me like Team Fascist is doing a great job of presenting what a fascist state would look like and feel like.
Because they have unity in their messaging and in their goals and in their aims.
Team Democracy, which I think is the only issue going into the next election. It seems like that's the only issue that matters is democracy. Team Democracy is not out there messaging how great democracy is. And, you know, we are going to know how great it is when we lose it. So, you know, there needs to be a concerted effort to push a more, you know, celebrated view of democracy. So people realize that there's a choice.
Who do we need it from?
Oh, we need it from everybody. We need it from everybody. We need it from every single politician who's running for office, and we need it from every celebrity out there. We need to make an absolute concerted effort everywhere to remind people how we got to be this greatest country in the planet, how we got to have all these rights that nobody else has gotten in the world. We did it because we have liberalism and we have a democracy. If we don't have that, we just slide back into a nightmare where women have no rights. Look what's happening in the Supreme Court right now. The rights are being taken away from people. And this is the first step, and there's going to be more and more and more of these rights taken away. It's just the plain truth of what's happening.
It's what's happening.
We need to present the alternative, which is democracy gives you freedom, it gives you equality, and it gives you more opportunity. It's just the reality of life.
And I think we need to very clearly articulate that's what's being actually directly attacked. Right? So Greg, to bring it back around to Greg's podcast this morning, his discussion with Craig.
So good.
Craig I thought that was the best articulation of what the Fourth Estate has been doing wrong and what it needs to start doing that I've ever heard anybody give it. We've talked with Craig about that, and I think it's just taken this time to sort of distill it down into really clear language. I think you should grab that bit, Greg, and make a audiogram about it and push that out into Twitter. And everybody here listening, we're going to all amplify that, because it's what he has to say is so good about where the focus needs to be in our press. It needs to be away from this sort of, I can't even remember his semantics, but they were so good. So push that out there, Greg, so we have it. But it was away from, it was really getting away from this sort of competitiveness and the both sidesness and all of that, and focusing on fact and truth. And just report the truth, right? And
it's getting away from the fairness doctrine and balance.
This climbing agenda, right? But he was talking about how it came out of that section with Greg was talking to him about, your book is pretty good. It's kind of establishing the argument that Donald Trump was owned by the Kremlin and also a confidential informant, and the FBI kind of dropped the ball on all that. And it's like, why won't anybody talk about this? What you've put together, right? Which is all there. It's pretty irrefutable. And his, a big part of it is, well, there's competitiveness with these other people who think that the Trump Russia story is somehow their territory, and they don't like that he's out ahead of it. And
it's crazy.
So sometimes it's down to something petty like that, just petty book deals and petty sources for people who are on mainstream media, right? Who are the big anchors. And it's like, if their sources are pissed off that he has something that they wanted to have, then they'll come in there and say, well, we won't be your talking head, or we won't be your person you can come to anymore if you're going to highlight this guy. So this sort of the competitive pettiness of it. That's what I wanted to, I really want that out there. I think we should be shaming people. It's like, don't you care about the facts more than you care about your fucking book deal?
Especially now. I mean, we really are facing a terrible situation, and we need everyone who's in this game, journalists especially, to be working together and breaking these stories so that we know what's going on. But I
think if people knew how many journalists I talked to and how many stories I've handed, they would be shocked. I'm not asking for a fucking byline on that shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, of course not.
It's like, why would you do that if you're trying to really help the situation, or say, if you don't do it, that the story's not going to get told? What the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, it's go ahead. Sorry, and I look at that.
I was going to say another thing that he talked about, which I think is important, is that the New York Times, for better or worse, remains kind of the de facto go-to. And if the Times doesn't want to report on something, other outlets are scared to do it themselves, for better or usually for worse. And the Times tends, Craig said on the podcast today, not to report stuff unless it's verified by either super top sources in the government or the FBI itself, which the FBI doesn't give out press releases and say, oh yes, Donald Trump is X, Y, and Z. And the top government officials are not going to say that either when Donald Trump is the top government official. Duh. So, they're just, it's lazy. It's lazy journalism. It's not, there's a point at which, you can have a guy saying, hey, yes, I'm the leader of the country and I say it's X, and that's fine. But you can also connect all the dots. LB, you have the analogy on your podcast, on the World Beneath podcast, with the hole in the wall made by Wile E. Coyote.
I love that Wile E. Coyote.
Burst through the wall. Yeah. Okay, we didn't see Wile E. Coyote, but it's fucking Wile E. Coyote because we know. We can see the fucking shape. Okay, it's obvious.
There's Acme boxes in the corner. It's his address.
You can at least report enough to have people draw their own conclusions. There's ways to tell the Trump Russia story without making explicit statements if you don't want to make them. There's enough smoke there. That's and there's
we've all been doing that
for
years now.
It's really.
But also, it's what you guys also got into that was so incredible, Greg, was tell a little bit about the Iraq, how Cheney manipulated.
Can we talk about the balance thing too first? Can we just talk before we leave the media thing? Because one of the things that he said was that the desire by the New York Times to have both sides of the story is not necessarily the right way to go, because this one side of the story could be completely false. And he was really underlining the need to focus on truth as a journalist. And that is absolutely true. I mean, it makes no sense to go after both sides. This idea of a fairness doctrine, both sides have equal ratings. No, it's absolutely not the case. If one side is telling you a bunch of lies, as we've seen in the last 4 years, They don't get to be an equal partner in the news sphere, in my opinion. So there you go. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, no, it brings it up, and I don't like to use this example because it's so extreme. Except that in Texas, they brought it up today with this Holocaust business, saying we have to both sides of Holocaust, right?
Yeah, both sides that.
Okay, what if that happened today? The New York Times would have to go find one of Hitler's guys to have a quote saying, "Oh no, that's not what's going on. That smoke is something else." They'd have to have the fucking quote in there.
Yeah, I mean, how do you both sides that?
Have all the evidence available. The Times would be like, well, we can't run that. It's only one side.
Exactly.
Because the run side is correct.
Yeah.
The one side is correct. If it's
are the facts. The facts are there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The facts are there. If the thing is true, if it is true, you do not need two sides. There is no two sides.
There's no two sides. There is only one side at that point.
2 + 2 is fucking 4.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So how do we know that? I mean, it's
Mars, exactly the problem.
It's 6, Yeah. No, it's not.
And you've got a bunch of QAnon people running for government now, and their version of what's going on in the world is completely bonkers. So we definitely don't want their version in the news. Like, I mean, that's that's unacceptable.
There's actually a Kremlin term for this.
Is there?
Because it is part, the both sidesism is part of a military science, intelligence science that is in there for cooking up propaganda and getting people in these logic traps, in these logic loops.
Yeah.
So that you can disintegrate
telling me about
truth itself. Yeah.
Wow.
This was years ago we were talking about.
Yeah, I remember that. Wow. Thank you for reminding us.
So when you see people that come out of the CNP that years ago came out really perfected in the art of this, I think it's time to look back at all that and say, oh yeah, you were really good at that when no other American was. That's not an American-born thing. And how'd you come out of that little think tank ready to go like that? Who's in there with you? Kellyanne Conway? Who was in that think tank with you?
And where's the Democratic counterweight to that? We don't have one yet. You're going to start talking about the other thing that Craig was talking about.
The Judith Miller.
Yeah,
right? Okay,
yes, I think so.
What that was basically when the Bush Cheney people were really good at exploiting the New York Times or journalists in general. So Cheney would call LB, I think, are you frozen?
I'm frozen.
She frozen? Oh, you're unfrozen. Okay. Cheney would call and say, "Hey, I have this thing. We think that that Iraq has yellow cake or whatever. They have WMDs, but you can't say that I said it. But this is what we think." And then she read an article about it because Vice President just told her this, right? So she read an article. Sources at the White House say blah blah blah. Then Cheney would go on TV and say, "Well, the New York Times has just reported that Iraq has yellow cake." So it's this spin cycle of thing where he started it, but sort of appeared not to be the one to have started it, and they fell for it again and again and again.
I think it's the way
because they knew that if the New York Times printed it, then they could use that as evidence to advance the war effort.
Right.
But what no one's telling you is they're the ones who planted that information with the New York Times, knowing that how they were going to use it. And so that's the game. That's the racket, everybody. It's a big old racket.
It really is a big racket. So, the New York Times is not necessarily the place to get your news. You can go to Prevail, or you can go to Narrative, or you can go to The World Beneath. Any of those places, you get your news and your history.
But the problem, the problem is, though, not to denigrate what we're doing, but I would really rather that the Times be the place where we get the news.
Yeah, I think so.
Can someone go in there and fix that fucking thing, please? Because 75 or 80% of what they're doing is really great. It's not like the whole Times sucks. It's it's a small percentage of it that's bad, but the small percentage of it that's bad is really, really, really bad. Starting with the whole op-ed page. I mean, just turn over everybody there. I don't understand why
there is a real need to, and we can't be amplifying the GOP anymore. I mean, that's when they're spouting racist or authoritarian or whatever nonsense they're coming up at any given day, we can't be amplifying that. The New York Times can't be printing that with the same weight as they are printing a Democratic position. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I guess they still will, but it doesn't make any sense to me. Should we play your game? I want to play your game.
Let's play my game. Can you see me now? Have I stopped buffering?
Yes, you stopped buffering. You look fine to me. Yes, you stopped buffering.
Okay, good.
So this game is called. It was called something else, but maybe you'll still call it this.
No, I like the switcheroo.
Oh,
Swapperoo.
Swapperoo. Okay, the plead the fifth Swapperoo.
Plead
Very
the
excited.
Fifth.
Very excited about this game. I'm going to just put this in the middle of us. And so tell us about how this game works.
Well, we're just going to, I didn't see how you set it up, but I think we're going to start with somebody who actually pled the fifth or pleaded the fifth.
Yes.
And then we'll figure out who in Donald's fucketeer land of insurrectionist planners actually is filling that role. Is going to plead the fifth and echoes this past person.
All right.
So, and we're going to get to some gangsters. Don't worry.
Okay, we're going to get some gangsters. We like gangsters.
Yeah.
Who's this dude?
Let's see who we starting with.
Oh, he's the Skrilly, I think, or...
did you Shkreli? Okay, let's put Martin Shkreli up there.
You can't see him. Oh, there you go. Sorry, here he is.
There he is.
Yeah.
Pleaded the fifth.
Now, who's he? Remind us who he is. He did something bad.
So he did fraud and market scams with biotech, basically.
Okay.
That's just the big broad thing. He's a total criminal. He's like a punk kid. He was running the markets, doing these crazy shortings and all this stuff. He, of course, got himself some really big gangster attorneys. God only knows how he knew them. Mm-hmm. And he's a good buddy of the guy who I think is I call these guys fuckaloos because they were also all part of that very early 2015, 2016 Steve Bannon crew with Milo and Lucian Wintrich, that sort of run up to the Republican convention. Yeah, so this is his actual friend, Ali, right? They hung out together. We have pictures of them.
Ali Alexander, they're buddies. They hang out.
There they are.
So
that's at the Twinks for Trump event around the RNC.
Wow.
I'm sure that was fun for a lot of people at the RNC. Maybe Jerry Falwell, somebody was in there at that party. And sorry about that, everybody. So anyway,
but you think Ali Alexander is going to be pleading the fifth?
I think he's going to plead the fifth. I don't think he's going to flip. I think he's going to plead the fifth.
He's going to get advice from his buddy over there, Mr. Skrilly, and plead the fifth. All right.
He saw it work with his good friend, and so he's going to do it.
It's sort of necessary in some cases. Okay, so who's this dude? Because I have no idea who this dude is. Looks like a nice-looking gentleman broadcaster from the CBS network.
So that's a CBS guy. That's a guy named Winston Burdett. And he was a spy. So this is like part
at CBS. No kidding.
At CBS, at media. This is part of what we will be getting into future seasons of The World Beneath.
Oh, good. I'm excited
everyone
about that.
has this idea that, spy. He was a Kremlin spy, KGB spy.
Oh, wow.
That some operatives from the Kremlin or from foreign intelligence agencies are only getting in there to get into our intelligence agencies, and they're trying to take microfiche from the things, and that's what everybody's idea of what a spy is.
Yeah.
Rather than understanding that sometimes it's really important to have, especially if you're running a narrative war, propaganda war, like what's happening to us, and you're attacking people from within their own culture and creating divisions. Sometimes it's very important positions to manipulate and infiltrate and have people in the positions are as a broadcaster, somebody who's in the news, who's out there controlling the narrative and shaping the narrative. So this guy was one of the Murrow boys. I don't know if everybody remembers that. He was actually an Edward R. Murrow boy, which was sort of considered the cream of the crop of the sort of new folks. And it turned out he was a KGB operative.
Oh, well, there you go.
And he pled the fifth.
He pled the fifth. And you think that he is a lot like this gentleman.
There he is.
Steve Bannon.
Mr. Media.
Oh, stop.
Mr.
I spent
Media.
so much time isolating that face today. I got to tell you.
Oh my
I spent about an hour intimately looking at Mr. Bannon today.
Look at
and his many shirts.
He's never looked better. I mean, he's actually, that's the best outfit I've ever seen him in.
It is.
I know Halloween is coming, but for Christ's sake, take that ugly thing off the screen. Ew.
Yeah, so it's important to control the narrative when you're working on behalf of a hostile foreign power that's engaged in a direct attack on our nation.
Now, you're not saying that he's a spy, are you? That Steve Bannon is a spy? Are you saying that?
Oh, I've been saying that for a long time, honey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
This guy's owned 10 Ways to Sunday. I don't know. I think China owns him now.
I think it's China. It's the MSS. Yeah, for sure.
He is not an American, and he hasn't been an American for a very long time. I think since the Foster, we covered that.
Yeah,
that naval warship. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Yeah. I am just making.
That's my thinking, everybody. It's just my free speech opinion.
It's her seeing the
Amendment right.
Yeah, the Roadrunner. It's a Roadrunner thing. You've seen the Roadrunner.
Now, this is Coolidge. Is that her name?
Coolidge, I think, is her name. Yes, I don't know who she was. Yeah. But she's somebody.
I can't even remember who I was swapping her out with. Yeah, I got to be honest. I pulled these guys together. But she was.
Oh, you want to swap? You know, you're swapping her out with. You're swapping her out with. One second. So
am I doing it with?
Bill Barr.
Okay, she's Department of Justice lady, right? So she was in there firing people or doing stuff that was wrong. She was corrupt. I don't know. I have to look at her case more, but it was like this was sort of like she came and she would not. She pleaded the fifth as someone from within the
DOJ. Wow.
I didn't want to incriminate herself against this sort of plotting and scheming she was doing. And I'm sorry, guys, I don't remember. It's been a very long day. I had her little thing, but I was shocked that I found that about her.
We just admire my Photoshop here. This is really good Photoshop.
He has never looked better.
He has never looked better.
You are really helping them out. Look at her.
Look at that. Look at this.
Extensions really work.
Yeah, it really works. It's a whole look. It would be a great look, actually.
What a delicate flower she is.
Did you see the stuff that Epstein supposedly said today about Bill Barr?
I want to hear that. I missed that, Zevin. You were mentioning that.
Let's go to it afterwards. I don't want to interrupt the game, but we're almost done.
Put a pin in that, everybody. Let's have the audience remind us. Yeah. Okay.
And then
here we go.
Here we go. Number whatever this is 4, I think.
Oh, Abramoff. Yeah. There we go.
Talk about a hat. He's got a hat game. Almost as good a hat game as you, LB, I think.
I mean, he's a full-on gangster, isn't he?
He looks like it.
He died before he could before things went wherever they were going to go for him. I think did he serve a sentence? He was. I've read, but he got.
Yeah, I thought he went to jail. Yeah,
I think he went to jail. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. He pleaded the fifth as well.
And
he's a pleader.
We're replacing him.
There he is. It's Rudy.
With Rudy. Yep. Look at him. Rudy fits that hat really well.
Yeah, working for foreign nations while supposedly being, working within our institutions. It's very illegal. You know, he was like, like Rudy with Turkey and all the other people that he doesn't have any problem being on the payroll for. And the gangsters he doesn't have any problem being on the payroll for that are foreign mobsters connected to hostile foreign intelligence services.
No scruples, no morals, nothing at all.
No scruples, no morals.
Loyalty, nothing.
Yeah.
And this gentleman.
Okay, this is my guy.
He's your guy.
Well, this is Vito Genovese. And so this was actually from his, this was later in life, but he pleaded the fifth in 1958 over 150 times.
Wow.
So the Senate pulled him in. He was in front of a Senate committee hearing. And there was this new thing that we were learning about called the mafia, which was Cosa Nostra. They ended up with that term later, figured it out. So Vito Genovese took over Luciano crime family. Lucky Luciano was the godfather of organized crime. He was the one who organized it with Meyer Lansky. And the 5 families had different names when it all came out of something called the Syndicate, which was born out of something called the Combination. So this is what you'll get in the first season of The World Beneath. I'll take you through all that history and how we actually ended up with the 5 families in New York that we know, and then a lot of ancillary families. Vito Genovese took over when Lucky Luciano was extradited, right? He went to jail. He went to prison for running a huge prostitution racket. And he was going to be stuck in there for quite a long time. And then he made a deal with the Department of Justice, and he was the first true informant where he actually had nation state secrets to hand over. So he was the first real, what I call mobster spies, right? Which scare the fuck out of me. Spying mobsters, I don't care. Like mobsters who just talk and they'll give you information. They're not scary guys. Mobster spies are really fucking scary because they're in there with national security and nation state secrets and swimming in a part of the underworld where the most dangerous creatures are. They are the most dangerous creatures.
This came up in your show, Greg. This whole FBI informant thing today.
That was for me.
There you go. It was a good addition.
And so Luciano hands over some stuff for World War II. He starts cooperating. In lo and behold, of course, he set the shit up so that he could then inform on it, just like what Craig was saying was happening with Shady, the other side of the flip side of the world. He gets extradited, and Vito Genovese takes over the crime family, Luciano crime family, his main one, and names it the Genovese crime family. And this was all done with J. Edgar Hoover. It's an incredible story. But the point being, by the time our Senate and our politics had figured out they're going to start that how organized all this stuff was and how compromised, they knew, but they were bringing it forward to the public. They hauled Vito Genovese in front of a hearing, and we're trying to get him to speak about it, from racketeering to murder to prostitution, the whole works, how it all worked. And he just pleaded the fifth and pleaded the fifth and pleaded the fifth, because, he was also an informant himself. So who's going to plead there he is.
Who's going to plead the fifth? As early as Monday, he'll be pleading the fifth.
Fake.
Because he's doing a deposition on Monday for a civil case.
Before.
Yeah,
you mentioned the fifth like 90 times in his divorce. Like, what is it about your divorce that you need to plead the fifth? What kind of criminality are you doing in there with your ex-wife? What were
so
you
telling.
So telling.
Well, 3 counts.
Can I say, just real quick,
Yeah.
Zev, can we just see Vito Genovese one more time and remove Orange Menace?
Yeah, sure.
Is it possible?
Here's Vito.
Vito. Yeah.
Vito's back.
He looks like an amalgam of my grandfather and all of my uncles. I just wanted to say that. Like, I know this guy. He lives on North Street. He does. I never seen a picture of him before.
Well, there you go.
I think my uncle used to go draka with this.
Maybe you're part of the family.
We can see it.
Familia.
We can see it, Greg. We can see it. Yeah.
Totally see it. Absolutely. No resemblance to this guy.
Oh, no resemblance to that guy.
Anyhow, hopefully we'll see him in the same condition as this guy, because here he is in cuffs. This was a Genovese in cuffs.
That's what everybody wants to see. There it is. And it was the Genovese crime family that Fred Trump worked for. So
there you go. So that's a very close relationship.
This
one doesn't transform because it's just the one guy, but because it's him playing him.
I mean, he did he plead the fifth? So I found that
I did plead the fifth.
I'm trying to remember.
He did plead the fifth. I can't remember where, but I looked it up today, and I can't remember the exact circumstances. But he did plead the fifth. So I don't know. Maybe someone will help us.
Mike Flynn. We're swapping him out with Mike Flynn.
Yes, because he's the most gross person in life. Well, thank you so much. That's amazing. Thank you for playing our game today. All right.
Good job on those graphics, Zev. So impressive.
Thank you. It took me a little time today. Thanks for the assignment. I was like, oh, this will be easy. And then cutting around everyone's face, especially when they have so many chins. I mean, oh my gosh. It's
God.
It's a lot of work. Some of them have lots of chins.
What did we say to put a pin in? Wait, what were we putting a pin?
Epstein.
Yes, Epstein and Barr. Okay.
So there's a new Michael Wolff book, as there always is, it seems. And this one is revealing that, here it is.
As there always
is that Jeffrey Epstein bragged that Bill Barr was really in charge and not Donald Trump in charge of the government, which I mean is an incredible statement because, of course, one was the Attorney General and the other one was the President of the United States. But I guess he was saying that that Barr was being brought in to manage the situation. Two quotes from the book, apparently attributed to Epstein. It's Donald's pattern. He lets someone else be in charge until other people realize that someone other than him is in charge. When that happens, you're no longer in charge. Second quote, Barr believes he'll get a big payday out of this. I speak from direct knowledge, extremely direct. Trust me. What does that mean?
That's what Epstein said? Epstein said that about Barr, believing he'll get a big payday.
And he was saying it to Ehud Barak and somebody else at a very weird meeting, which is quoted in detail. Like, it's almost like they've got the transcript of this thing in the Michael Wolff book. So, it's probably true.
So who was paying Barr?
Well, he was hired by the Israelis. Wasn't he first in Israel? Wasn't he? He got the job when he went to Israel, and they asked him if he would take part in Trump's defense at the time, and he refused. And somehow weeks later became Attorney General. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, but that's when we first heard about him, circling in the Trump world. And Epstein, as we know, also worked for Israel. So
yeah.
Who knows? Maybe that's the direct knowledge. Or maybe they had contact together, which is bizarre because it's Barr that imprisoned Epstein. And then the next day, did that press conference saying how dreadfully sorry he was about the whole thing, about Epstein dying. So it raises all sorts of questions if they had direct contact. Some people believe that Barr actually visited Epstein the week before he died in jail.
I actually wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah.
To be honest. But I do remember that moment of when Barr came out and said, it's suicide.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But he looked panicked to me. I think that shocked him. I do. I know people have their conspiracies. I think that man was in shock.
Well, I'm sure it was. Well, you wouldn't want to lose a prisoner like that. That's for sure. But who knows? So these guys' agendas are very, very different. It's going to be really interesting to read the rest of this book. I'm looking forward to it. But Epstein is an interesting character, no doubt. Okay, that's all I have. I think that's all I have. We got the FBI stuff. Have we spoken about the FBI stuff? Do we need to talk about the FBI directors? We do. Greg,
we're running out of time though. Do we want?
Or do we want? Oh, we got
Do we want sports? I don't know.
Well, of course we want sports. Is Kyrie? Is that his name? Kyrie.
Kyrie.
Thank you for introducing him to me last week.
Too, guys.
Uh-oh.
Somehow my thing isn't
You're
working.
You're flickering. So what's going on with Kyrie and what else is going on in sports?
Well, what's going on with Kyrie is that the New Jersey Nets were like, he wasn't allowed to, play in Brooklyn, which is where he plays at home games or practice with the team. And the Nets were like, yeah, stay home. Fuck you. We don't need you. When you're vaccinated, you can come back, which is great because now, and all of the right wing, alt-right, Cernovich and those guys jump on this. Kyrie is now their hero and all this kind of stuff. Which, if you're Kyrie, should clue you in that maybe you're being used as a.
You're on the wrong side of history here.
But didn't he say he didn't want to be used, and then he was being used? It's like, oh, this poor guy.
He is a flat earther.
Oh,
he is a
flat
earther.
So
okay.
Yeah.
But he's really good at what he does on the basketball court, and he is he has a senior position in the NBA Players Association. So other players like him a lot. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how this shakes up. But I think the Nets did the right thing.
Is this going to be the bend the knee of this year? No, it can't be that bad. It can't be that big a thing. But it could be.
They're comparing him to Ali, who
really?
I would remind everybody got vaccinated, no problem. And Ali protested going to a war to harm because he didn't want to harm people.
Right.
He didn't want to be part of that. This guy is all in for something that harms people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only it's one of those collapsing of things that the right does that again should infuriate and people get outraged about it, but it's also very telling. It's like it's so dark, it's so manipulative, it's so intentional to just collapse all these things and create all this chaos and confusion. If something is really confused like that, this is how you know you're being manipulated.
Yeah.
It's when it's confusing to that degree. When things.
But the sports story that I prepared, Zev.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sports.
Please, it's sports.
It's about Herschel Walker. It's about Herschel Walker. Okay, Herschel Walker.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Oh, are we doing narrative? Sports?
Okay,
yeah, we need that. We need the narrative.
It's now sports narrative with Greg Olear. Da-da-da.
Okay, so I look at my phone.
All right, Greg. What's in the sports?
It's Herschel Walker.
Don't fall
It's
asleep,
Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker. Okay, running for. Is he running for governor or the Senate in Georgia? I can't remember. I think he's running for the Senate in Georgia. Who is Herschel Walker? First of all, he's somebody who moved to Georgia like 2 weeks ago, just under the. He lived somewhere else, so he had to establish residency lightning fast. He played football years ago in Georgia, so he's super popular there. And he was a really good football player, really good athlete. I think he was he did the Olympic luge one year. Like he said, he was just like, I'm just going to do the luge. And he was so good at it. So he's a sick, right. Yeah. He's a sick, good athlete. He was really good. And back in the day, a couple things. First of all, he held out and he got traded. The Dallas Cowboys drafted him and traded him to the Vikings for like 2 million draft picks in the late 80s, which they used to draft the team that won like 3 Super Bowls in a row. So he's famous for being what was given up in the most lopsided, stupid trade in NFL history. But before he played in the NFL, he played in the USFL for a team owned by.
No.
I don't know.
Yes.
Not Donald.
Come on. Donald Trump.
No ways.
The New Jersey Golden Showers. I'm sorry, not the Golden Showers. The Generals. Call the Generals.
The Golden Showers. Oh, that's a brilliant name. That's a brilliant
name. Not the Golden
name.
Showers. I think that is. That should be what Trump's casino should be called. The Golden Showers.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That's a great idea. Everybody can see why I love Greg Olear.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic.
I can see the
Herschel
graphic
Walker
now.
has a long Trump as the owner of this team, but the USFL. One of the things that they decided to do as a rival to the NFL was let's not give players crazy big contracts.
Right.
Let's keep costs low so that we can do this. And Trump immediately came in and gave Herschel Walker some ridiculous contract and literally fucked up the entire USFL in such a bad way that the entire thing collapsed. I know
Sounds like
Trump has
Donald
failed
Trump.
in many ways,
Yeah.
but he also completely fucked the USFL because he's.
I don't even know what the USFL is, but you don't have to explain it to me. It's okay.
It was
it's
a
okay.
rival league to the NFL that existed for like a minute and a half. That Herschel Walker and Doug Flutie were the two most prominent players. Now, Herschel Walker's having this event at the event in Georgia. Donald Trump, Doug Flutie, also of the USFL, and Tom Glavine, former pitcher for the Atlanta Braves.
Oh, glad he was there.
Great. He was there. Very sad moment for Braves fans, as if being a Braves fan weren't sad enough. Your star pitcher is a Trumpy asshole. Sorry, Braves fans. This is why I don't watch baseball.
Is that the sports news? That's the sports news. That is the sports news.
I just want everybody to understand what because again, rolling the eyes. I don't care about the actual sports, but understanding who these people are and how they fit together. Herschel Walker and Donald Trump have known each other for 40 years.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. It's a long thing. And Herschel Walker is like he's a legit celebrity. He's an athlete. As an athlete, the guy was off the charts great. And
it's a crazy name. Herschel
unfortunately,
Walker.
I don't know if he got hit in the helmet too many times or what, but he has not been all that great since then, and certainly not in the Trump era. And this business that he's doing in Georgia is very dangerous. We do not want him to win. We want to limit the number of football associated people that are in the Senate. I think one is enough. That Tommy Tuberville in Alabama, I think that's enough. I think we have our quota of ex-football people. That's all. Yeah, that's it.
Greg, I feel like you're the loneliest sports fan in the world because you got I'm not reacting very much to your stories because I don't really know what you're talking about, and then LB is also maybe doesn't know what you're talking about as much. So thank you.
Sometimes.
Oh, the other way. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Jess, for reminding me. I get interested in, but not.
So I just want to say it's okay. You can be you here. It's fine. It's fine.
Well,
you can be you.
The purpose of this, Zev, as I see it, is you guys look at Twitter, and sometimes there will be names scrolling, and you'll be like, I don't know who that is.
Yes.
So my job here is to explain who this person is. The other name is Jon Gruden. Yeah. You're going to hear that name a lot.
Okay.
Jon Gruden, was the coach of the Raiders until a couple days ago. He signed a 10-year, $100 million contract to coach and be the general manager of the Raiders. He's in year 3. Okay. It's already a catastrophe. He's no longer good at this job. So apparently, now that's the Raiders, formerly Oakland, then LA, then now Las Vegas Raiders. Okay.
Yeah.
Gruden is buddies with this guy named George Allen, who used to be part of the Washington football team. Yeah. It's called the Washington football team because it used to be called the Redskins. And the owner of the Redskins, Dan Snyder, is the worst owner in professional sports, period, full stop. Just a buffoon who has ruined the team. He's been there for 20-something years. He's awful. Every way that you could be awful as an owner, he is awful. He is the bad guy. Okay, just trust me on this. No one likes him. No one. They had a huge thing in that franchise.
He is going to go on forever. I think he is going to go on forever.
Lots of sexual harassment stuff that came out, like rampant sexual harassment, hostile work environment. So the NFL is investigating. As part of the investigation, they reviewed 500,000 emails, maybe more, 650,000 emails, and they found these emails that Gruden had written this guy, George Allen, who was the head of whatever football operations, I think, for the Washington, then Redskins, now football team. And they're just gross emails. He's homophobic, he's racist, he's sexist, all this gross stuff back and forth for like 7 years. These guys are obviously bros. And so he left the job. He resigned. He should resign. But there's lots of things, because this was like Gruden was in the good old boy kind of network in the NFL. He's kind of a caricature almost. Everybody likes him. And he's associated with Hooters, the Hooters franchise, and he's friends with the owner of Hooters.
The Hooters.
Okay.
Does Brett Kavanaugh feature in the story?
Hooters. He's at Hooters a lot. And the other guy who used to work at Hooters is Connie Mack IV, who is now a lobbyist for Orban, just to bring it all back.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, full circle.
Connie Mack used to be a marketing assistant for Hooters when he first started. And it's
really?
What was the marketing meeting? What did you talk about? Maybe we should make Hooters about boobs.
I thought it was all about the
good job with the marketing.
Chicken legs, whatever it is they make.
Yeah. Right. That's Jon Gruden, not a
Thank you, Jon Gruden. So we learned about Jon Gruden and the other guy, Herschel, the Herschel guy.
Herschel Walker.
We learned about Kyrie last week. Kyrie. Last week. So
it is literally like a Kardashian.
Yeah.
If Kris Kardashian named him
Right,
I'm
probably
convinced.
the next character.
Kyrie,
Thank you for expanding our knowledge of all these great people, and boy, I feel knowledgeable now.
I
about
feel
sports.
like sports is really. I like some good sports stories. We're like in the dirty area of sports, like the just sort of the ignorant, greedy, disgusting, take advantage. They're either racketeering off of their,
the intersection of
last week,
mob
and
and
then
sports.
this week it's like, these.
Do you want to talk about how
your
your LA Dodgers team stole Mookie Betts from the Boston Red Sox and won the series against the Giants on a complete bullshit call? Do we want to talk about actual sports?
I don't know what you just said
No.
to me. I really do not even understand what you just said, but
No.
I'm not going to pretend that I do. Did we have to talk about something that was pinned to the chat? Someone is saying on the chat, we have to don't forget something pinned to
we did it. I said
we did it. Okay. Okay.
It was the Bannon and Epstein thing.
Okay.
We figured it out. Thank you.
Do we want to talk
everybody.
about Chris Wray being a terrible FBI director and how hard it is to find FBI directors? We know this already. We know.
How about
this.
just a woman?
Well, there's.
You can go on. You can talk about Chris Wray.
Just one quick. I'm sorry. I know I talked a lot. Just really quick.
Yes.
You're allowed to talk
Keep going.
as much as you want.
I'm sorry.
We have opened the Pandora's box.
In the podcast with Craig, he reminded me of a part in American Compromise where he talks about James Kallstrom, who was
such an interesting story.
The assistant director of the FBI and the head of the New York bureau for years. I think he retired in 97, I want to say.
Kallstrom is a good story.
He was friends with Trump since 1973.
Yes.
Trump basically, here's what Trump did. Trump gave $1.3 million to Kallstrom's charity. Now,
yes, he did.
We know Trump. Trump doesn't give money to anybody.
Well, I don't think it was Trump's money. I'm going to be
whatever
clear about that.
Yeah, I know. But Trump was in charge. So these guys were friends for 40 years or something.
Yeah.
Trump cultivated him. Apparently, Craig told me that Kallstrom and Trump would talk every week, including when he was president. Okay?
And Rudy was friends with them too.
They were that tight. Now, you have a guy who used to be in charge of the New York field office for the FBI for however long he was there.
Yeah.
Who's buddies with Trump.
Yeah.
Buddies, good friends with Trump. Everyone knows he's good friends with Trump. And during the campaign is running around going on NPR saying that literally that Hillary is a crook.
Yep.
So
he was that one. He was the guy.
Things. That affects things.
You think
if
so?
you're
You think
human being, as Craig points out, if you're a human being in that office, you're thinking, my God, am I going to go after Trump and be perceived as helping Hillary? No.
Do you want some mobster spy stuff on Kallstrom?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So back during the commission trials, it started with John Cody and the concrete cartel, and when all of that was sort of coming to fore, this is like late 70s, early 80s, and the FBI was investigating. They were realizing what the concrete cartel was, that was price fixing around development in New York City and sort of outer boroughs, right? And who would get these jobs, and it was all fixed through these concrete unions that were. Are the people who, it's not really a concrete union, but everyone involved in all that.
Sam somebody.
Well, John Cody was the criminal involved in that. He was the head of the union. So it's very much in the Hoffa lane in terms of where he was pension and fund doing that work for organized crime. Cody was doing price fix, helping with the price fixing. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he was very close with Donald Trump, and Donald gave him a whole suite. There's a whole thing and all that. So once they had Cody, they realized, and they got information on that. The FBI, the New York field office, which at that time was Kallstrom was in there, and Rudy Giuliani was in charge of this at the Southern District of this investigation.
It's quite a convenient thing to have someone at the FBI and
they were like that.
It's so useful.
What happened here was they realized they needed to get listening devices. They needed to get to advance the technology and get things into the actual gangsters' homes, the mob bosses' homes, right? And this had to do with eventually they got inside Paul Castellano's personal home, which was just a coup, right? But the process of it, they also were trying to listen in, and they had their tech wasn't all that great. They were trying to listen in around for. Vinny the Chin, who was walking around in his bathrobe, and like all this stuff was going on. Okay. So
it was the first time they tapped the mob.
The first time they really truly tapped it.
Yeah.
Rudy and Kallstrom especially reached out to the NSA and was like, do you guys have technology that we could use? Now the NSA was all foreign, right? It's like they can't spy, but there was nothing stopping them from saying, yeah, sure, we have some tech, right? That we'll train you in it and you can use it. So John Kallstrom was right at the forefront of all of that, of these very high, in that age, very technical and highly developed listening devices. That he was the one sort of in charge of that and bringing that into the FBI around this case, around these gangsters that were Donald Trump's gangsters.
So interesting. And then I think he ended his career.
He got the tools to do it.
Yeah, he got all the tools.
And that, when you understand that about Castro, that here's a man who knows that at that time the most sophisticated techniques for collection.
Yeah. And you've got
and what
the thing
he
is,
might have been able to listen in on, and what he might have evidence of.
and the mob would never have expected this. The mob did not expect there to be listening devices because they'd never been used before. One of you've got your speakers open, and I can hear myself in your thing. I don't know.
I don't think it's me.
Something. I'm hearing myself somewhere. I don't know where from.
I think I'm still here. I'm so sorry.
Okay, sorry.
No,
maybe me.
Okay, let's check with the audience. Are we echoing?
I'm not going to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little echoey, but I don't know why. So I'll just keep.
Okay.
I'm pressing some
They're going
buttons.
to tell us.
Anyhow.
So anyway,
but it's the first time the mob had this tapping that was going on, wiretapping.
Well, they kind of knew. They knew to cover. They knew that the FBI had lip readers. They knew that they had things. They knew that they would watch it with long lenses. They knew that kind of stuff, but they didn't understand how sophisticated the technology was. They just didn't get it because it was coming out of our intelligence services.
Right.
Americans had never seen this before. It was highly classified stuff.
And I think Hallstrom had career ended sort of when he had some questions around his investigation into TWA, if I'm not mistaken, the TWA crash in Long Island. I think that's where his career had an unceremonious end. And I don't know what the questions were, but there were questions. So then he went into this union stuff for all these, for Rudy and Trump, basically. And that's why they get all the support from the cops. That's why they get all the cop support. And that's why the other day, the union chief of the Sergeants Benevolence Fund in New York was arrested under mysterious circumstances. We're not quite sure what he did, but that's all connected to all of that. So there you go. That's the show for tonight. That's the show. Mobsters, spies everywhere, and sports figures everywhere.
Herschel Walker, mobsters and spies. Yeah.
You guys got plans for this weekend?
I think I'm just gonna hang out. I'm clearly somewhere else, everybody. I'm back with the ancestors behind me, with my folks.
Hi, ancestors.
I know.
Aww.
So we're just gonna chill out here. It's nice. It's fall. The fall leaves.
It's beautiful.
It's almost over. It's just at the very last ends of it, but it's so beautiful. And it's just incredible to have water. I can't even tell you what it's like to be from Southern California and arrive and there's just water everywhere. You're just like, oh my God, it's water.
I can imagine. Yeah. That's great.
So nice.
Greg, what about you? You got any plans? Watch James Bond again?
Succession is back on Sunday night.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for reminding me. That's really good. That's really good. That's going to be great. I can't wait for that. Well, okay.
I've avoided all. I didn't watch the trailer. I've avoided everything. I don't want to know anything about it.
I heard it's really good. I heard it's amazing. I heard it's really, really amazing. So yes, that'll be Sunday night's viewing. We'll talk about it next week.
God.
Well, that's the show for tonight. And that's the end of the week on Narrative, the endless week on Narrative. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been really great to have you here tonight. Have a great weekend. We'll be back on Tuesday with we have a really interesting show on Tuesday. So join us then. I won't tell you what it is because I haven't completely figured it out. And until then, have a great weekend. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, Zev.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, all. Thanks, Zev.
Narrative is made possible by viewers like you. Join today and support truly independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative. That's patreon.com/narrative.